Morning, beautiful people. Today I wanted to talk about correct and incorrect knowledge. And this refers to generally the knowledge that we approach ourselves with and that we approach the world with. Basically, our views, perceptions, ideas, approaches. And through meditation, we can develop the skill of concentration. Yeah? So, what does that mean practically? That means that we can start discerning thoughts, sensations, and feelings from the awareness that we are, from which we are actually observing them. Well, we've been trained to identify with them, and experientially that feels almost like a pull, like a magnet. So imagine that you're an awareness that observes things, that experiences things, that can see things, meaning thoughts, emotions, perceptions, etc., sensations in the body and in the mind. But at the same time, you can, with your observation, you can enter a state and identify with it, meaning see the world and yourself and your thoughts and everything else, sensations, feelings, whatsoever, through the filters of this state. And this is the process of identification. Now when we habituate it and we get very used to it, we do it without any kind of conscious consent, because it happens so quickly and so automatically we don't even notice that we've identified with a feeling, meaning we're saying I am that. So let's say that anger arises in the body. Yeah, there is a situation, somebody is unpleasant to you, or whatever the situation might be. And there is anger, there is a thought that arises, like for example, it might be a very quick one at the beginning, we might not be able to catch it. And it says something like, this person shouldn't have done like this, I am like that, they are like this, so they should act in such and such way. This usually happens in a fraction of a moment. It's very fast because we got used to it and we develop this thinking slash feeling habit very, very well, because we've been trained to do so from a very early age. We've learned from family, friends, society, institutions have pushed us to adopt this method, unconsciously, of comparing, of judging. Yeah, and judgment essentially, and comparing is just thoughts that say, this person has this, and they do things like that, and they look in such and such way, so I might be less or I am more than they are. Just thoughts and sensations, sensation of approval or disapproval of something. And respectively, there can be also self-punishment, which usually expresses itself in physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, meaning very self-punishing thoughts and sensations in the body. And what do we do when it comes to correct and incorrect knowledge? Now, incorrect knowledge is the idea that we have to identify, the idea that we are that which we are experiencing currently in our bodies and in our minds. This is incorrect knowledge, and the incorrect knowledge is that we have to act upon those energies and mental patterns that we feel, that we sense in us. Now, correct knowledge, when developed properly, is when we can discern clearly, when there is lesser need for identification, if any. But let's say that we've been brought up in such a society, yeah, and this is something which is very, very strongly rooted in us. So let's say that there would be some identification process, but the discernment, meaning being clear-minded, knowing what's going on, seeing, for example, fear or anger or judgment in the mind, or any sort of self-punishing thoughts or envious thoughts or whatsoever, hateful thoughts, and we are there able to discern that those are just thoughts, those are just feelings, those are just sensations, and we know that. Now this I call correct knowledge. And through correct knowledge, we can see the world correctly. Now, this doesn't mean that when there is something harmful, we cannot discern it and say, that's harmful, I shouldn't do that, or somebody else shouldn't do that, but rather being able to see that this other person or ourselves, we have identified incorrectly with something that has become a pattern in our bodies and in our minds, that we have basically copied, felt, experienced, and adopted. And now we see the world through a filter which is not beneficial to ourselves and others. Now this is incorrect knowledge, the incorrect identification, the incorrect filtering of our perceptions, of our states. Now, correct knowledge, on the other hand, is the knowingness of this identification process, knowing about it, being aware of it, seeing it, observing it, and choosing. Because in a situation which is full of adversity, and let's say like there is anger, there is sadness, there is hatred, there is this, there is that, we're able to know correctly that those are just energies, emotions, thoughts whatsoever, they're passing, and we do not have to choose from them, even though they're the first one to be presented to us, because of reasons. Yeah, we are not looking at the reasons now. But let's say that some of the reasons are in the past, in our family's past, society's past, etc. Things that we've picked up upon. Now, correct knowledge is basically allowing us to choose correctly. What is to choose correctly? To choose correctly is to see the world as good, to see ourselves as good and as pure, to see this purity in everything, and from this place of knowingness that we are just observing, that we can choose peace, we can choose kindness, we can choose to act differently, we can choose to act from understanding, we can choose to see a person who is angry, hateful, and let's say that they are doing harm to others, we can choose to see them with kindness, meaning to be compassionate for them, to understand their suffering in a sense, to understand that they're going through some tremendous inner turmoil and pain inside, which is driving them. So this identification filter that they've put on, this mask that they've put on, that they've said yes to, this is who I am, is causing them pain, a lot of pain. And from this correct knowledge, correct perception, we can choose how to act in the world. And this doesn't, again, I'm saying, this doesn't mean that we are blind. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. Actually, anger and judgment towards those people can blind us way more than purity of mind can. Because purity of mind is essentially us choosing not to filter things through the perception of incorrect knowledge, which might be judgment, which might be hatred, which might be hateful wishing, wishing them to be punished as well, wishing them bad, wishing them to be harmed, etc. And in this way we can develop, or rather allow, kindness in our mind, which is, it's a substantial skill, not only because we can cultivate it, but because it's natural to us. It's natural for us to feel good. That's why we constantly seek happiness. That's why we constantly, unconsciously seek to feel good. We consciously and unconsciously seek to feel loved, to feel appreciated, to feel peaceful, because this is the natural state of our minds. This is the natural state of our awareness, consciousness. And because this is the natural state that we are supposed to be in, we're constantly seeking it, consciously and unconsciously, sometimes through the means of very incorrect knowledge, very incorrect perceptions, very harmful to ourselves and others perceptions. So by seeing things through the correct perception, through the correct knowledge, we can then develop kindness for ourselves and others, and see others as beings which we can have and hold compassion for, which we can love, which we can help, which we can appreciate and value, which we can essentially love for who they are, for their uniqueness, which we can help, which we can support from a place of absolute knowingness that all is good, that whatever identification might have taken place It is just an identification that everything can and will change. And essentially, through correct knowledge, we can choose to act from goodness, to act from purity of mind, to act from our hearts, to see others for who they really are, because deep down inside, every single one of us is a good, pure, peaceful, and loving being. Whether currently some of us have chosen to identify with, the masks of a martyr or offender or a victim, what have you, this still does not mean that through correct knowledge, through correct perception, we cannot see others for who they truly are, and we cannot see ourselves for who we truly are. Because let's say that we sit down to meditate and there are thoughts of, oh, I'm not doing this correctly, I don't feel how I should feel. Those are the thoughts that I'm talking about. This is incorrect knowledge. And when we start following this incorrect knowledge that suggests, oh, I'm not feeling what I should feel, then we fall in a trap. In a trap of knowledge which does not know the truth, which doesn't lead us to the truth, but we follow it blindly because for whatever reason we've habituated it, we've adopted it in our system, and now we follow it to an outcome which is detrimental for ourselves, because if we follow a thought that says, oh, we should feel better, or we are doing this incorrectly, I should feel better by now, this is only going to bring us more pain. It's going to bring us self-judgment, self-criticism. It's going to bring us probably sadness, to some anger to others. So you see how incorrect knowledge is bringing those situations that are harmful to us. And correct knowledge, seeing this thought and being, wow, I've been punishing myself by actually buying into this thought and developing it into a habit, into a story about myself and others. And I can actually let it go. I can be loving to myself, whether I currently perceive myself as such and such person, or there are things, quote unquote, that I have to blame myself for, or redeem myself for, whatever. I can choose to change that. I can choose to change the pattern of the knowledge that I'm essentially seeing myself and the world through. So you see, the difference is huge. It's immense. And nevertheless, we might fall in the trap again and again and again. But if we fall into the trap and then we realize that we have, and then we punish ourselves, or we decide, oh, I am not good enough because I'm not successful at this or that, even though I've done so many things, we again fall into a trap of incorrect knowledge, because every effort to become basically who we are, to shed some of those layers of incorrect perceptions, is always fruitful and always gives fruit, whether we see it now or not. If we're consistent, it will always give fruit, and correct knowledge will tell us that, hey, I might have felt worse than yesterday today. I'm doing the same things, but I felt worse. But I know that what I'm doing is good. I know and I will trust that I can appreciate myself, that I can love myself, that I can do the same for others, because essentially others have always been kind to me. And through correct knowledge, I can see that they are paying taxes because they're earning money. They're earning money because they're helping other people. That means that they're helping the economy, which is basically helping me, because that keeps shops open, that keeps small and big manufacturers open, small and big businesses open, which I enjoy, which give me so much, which give me food, provide me with clothes, which I can buy. If those people weren't doing those things, I wouldn't be able to do those things. So those people are actively and passively kind to me. And we look only at their actions that have contributed to our well-being. And essentially we can find this in every single person. Even if somebody's done us bad, we can see them through correct knowledge and be like, they've shown me something in me that's been hurting from before, and they've done me good. So I can appreciate them for that they showed me what hurts inside, so that we can treat this which hurts inside, which we can love, we can observe, let go of, yeah, heal, perceive in a different way, or just drop, yeah, and we can appreciate them for what they've done for us, because this is kindness, this is goodness. So you see, incorrect knowledge is bringing so much relief, is bringing so much harmony to the world, to ourselves, to others, because we can perceive each and every being, living being here in this world, as a being that has done us good, that is essentially loving. We can see them for who they truly are, instead of seeing our filters that depict them in this or that way. It's very different, yeah? Seeing a filter or seeing a real human. Very different experience. Now this, of course, has to be practiced. It has to be sought after. This is something that we need to cultivate, because for now, most of us have been cultivating the opposite, meaning judgment, putting more filters, more identification. I'm like this, you're like that, whatsoever. But essentially, everybody is having some sort of suffering. Everybody is in some sort of pain. Some people more, some people less. But we can see that and actually be kind to other people, because we understand through correct knowledge. We understand that they're going through stuff as well. This can bring compassion in our mind. You know this feeling when your heart starts swelling and you feel like, oh my goodness, I want to treat this human being in a loving way, because they deserve it, because they're suffering. And I know what suffering is, because I've been suffering. Yeah? We can think in this way. We can see the world and ourselves in this way. Just imagine, just imagine, just imagine the change in us, in our community, in our society. With this, I'm leaving you guys. I wish you love and peace, and I wish you to value your unique experience, to value it and see it for what it truly is. See it for the loving life that you are, and all the kindness that you can give to yourself and others. So develop it and make it a daily habit. Love you all, guys. See you soon. Ciao.